Good morning, afternoon, and evening from the Singapore International Photography Festival. Welcome to the festival's online programs to connect you and everyone in the community despite closed borders, lockdowns, and stay-home notices. My name is John Tung, and I'm one of the festival curators for the Singapore International Photography Festival. And it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for the night, Seba Kurtis, who is presenting two bodies of work at the festival, Drowned and Telcom. However, before properly introducing Seba, let me begin with a short introduction about the festival. The Singapore International Photography Festival, founded in 2008, is a biennial gathering of minds from around the world, the common pursuit of advancing the art and appreciation of photography. It aims to be a much needed arena for critical thought and academic discussions on photography in this part of the world and Asia. The SIPF will also function as a key platform to discover and nurture through its educational and public engagement programs. At the core of the Singapore International Photography Festival is a firm belief that photography can be enjoyed by all. The festival is organized by DEC, an art photography gallery, Art Photography Centre Limited. DEC is a recipient of the National Arts Council major company scheme grants. And with that, I shall properly introduce our speaker for the night, Seba Kurtis. Seba was born in Argentina in 1974, where he studied journalism in Buenos Aires before leaving the country for Europe in the wake of political and economic crisis. Seba himself is no stranger to this year's festival themes of departing and arriving, given that he himself has spent several years as an illegal immigrant, a history that has informed a lot of his artistic practice. His work, which explores the social and cultural impacts of irregular migration, has been exhibited widely internationally. And his photo book, Drowned, of which some images are being shown at this year's festival, was also selected for the International Photo Book Award at the International Photo Book Festival Le Bal, Paris in 2012. Today, Seba Kurtis lives and works in Manchester. Seba, thank you so much for joining us tonight for this artist talk. Really looking forward to your sharing tonight. So with that, I leave the stage to you.
Yeah, well, I will show you guys a bit of my process from since I started with photography, even my background on my family history, how it becomes my story in the end. We have Ju on the controls there on the side, so be patient with us. We're gonna show you all my work one by one. We start, Ju, ready? Yay. All right. This is my archive from my family history when we used to be like a normal middle-class family in the 70s in Argentina. Because of the economic crisis, like happens in Latin America most of the time, we lost, well, my father lost, we got evicted from the house. He lost the business and the house. And you know, when the loan sharks come to your house and take all the furniture, the television, even the clothing, the only thing left was a shoebox with our prints and memories, with the Super 8. And you know, now it's everyone has a hard drive, but before, the moms have this big shoebox with all the prints inside. So we keep it in my grandma's house, and it suffered a flood. And that's how the water, if you can see that in the video, it damaged all the emulsion of the film and becomes really, really kind of a violent memory. That becomes after a really big influence on my own work on Drown. So yeah, if we go into the first slide. So I call this project Jukebox, and I show it the first time in New York when I have a show about immigration, and I'm not really a big fan of text. You know, when you go to a show and you need to read an essay explaining the work before you start. So I say, instead of text, I will show my archive of my family history. And as you can see here, normally in Latin America, we are Catholic. I was born under a really violent dictatorship in the 70s, and I knew something wasn't right, you know. I was young, but I could understand something wasn't right, and nobody wants to talk about the dictatorship at that moment, especially. So I grew with this anger that I really wanted since I was really young, I wanted to express myself somehow, doing fanzines, radio shows, organizing concerts. And that leads me to journalism, and later on it brings me to photography. But I was really eager since I was really young to talk about the dictatorship or all kind of conflict, social conflict. So yeah, my father, the next slide, you can see my father there on the white shirt. He's a real amazing character. But that was when I moved in 2001 to Spain. Imagine you're in Argentina in 2001, hits a crisis, and the bank make a pact with the government, and you can't take your savings out of your bank. So they were frozen. So whatever you have in your pocket is what you have. So I decided it was a good moment to leave to Europe, even when I knew it was going to be illegal, and start a new life. So it was heartbreaking. The first one I bring was my dad. After a few years, I bring my dad. It was heartbreaking to see my dad start his life again on the end of his life, with no friends, with no job. So he started to work as a security guard at night in an outdoor shopping mall in Canary Island. And very quick, we raised money to bring my mom, which is in the next picture. So my mom, when he arrived, started to work illegally on hotels. I was working in construction sites in hotels, so I knew people. When you're illegal, you have a community, So I knew people who was hiring women to clean, hotels. So I found a job. Again, it was really difficult because sometimes they don't pay you, and it was really hard to explain to my mom, look, you work for these 2 weeks, maybe you're not gonna get paid, because that's how mafia works, with illegal immigration. But really soon, if you see the next slide, really soon we got on our feet. They're both now have papers, they're legal. My mom even have a Spanish passport now. So when we recover, we bring back all these boxes from Argentina. I was fascinated about how the water create their own form on the pictures. If you see the next picture, you can see this guy jumping, and on the right, it forms like another different cloud on its own. I found it really poetic. So I start to show even the backs of the images. If you see the next one, you can see the back on the box. The water damaged so much that some of the pictures they were stuck to each other. So you have to peel them off. Yeah, exactly. When you peel them off, you can see two faces in that one. Those are the traces of pictures that we're never going to see again. And I thought it was a great representation of our past, in South America. Now we all, the whole family moved here to Europe. At that time, when I start high school, I didn't have any reference, or I never been in a museum or a gallery. The only art reference I have was from music and from books, especially magic realism. Yeah, like Borges, Marquez. They took me away to another, dimension. My father is a great guy, but he was interested in tango, football. My mom was like, in the kitchen dancing salsa. It wasn't a thing like we did trips to see, I don't know, Picasso or anything. It was just that, and it was a really happy moment. But magic realism, which is this author, this literature of it was born in Germany by Latin American Bracer. That was when my brain was out. I was super transported to another dimension. I was fascinated about magic realism, and I think that influence was really important on my photography. I tried to find a way. Especially with the language of traditional documentary, which I'm focused on. I try to break it down with these elements of magic realism. So the first project I did was in Arizona, called 700 Miles. You can see that image there. I don't know if you guys can see really up. You can see a fence up the mountain. In 2006 Bush administration, America, approved 700 miles of fencing across the border in Arizona and California, which is what Trump is trying to continue, you know, with the wall. The wall, it was a fence, it was 700 miles of fence, and you can see it's really high. He tried to glorify, you know, the actual wall. And I wasn't really interested on the wall when I went there. I was more interested on the wake of the Ku Klux Klan again, you know, the rednecks, they were super, Ku Klux Klan was really quiet in the 90s. And this wall gave a reason to start to just get organized again. If you see the next slide is from the website of the Minutemen, which was a big movement in the late 2000s. Now, you know, there's so many like the Proud Boys and there's so many groups. But that time, that was revolutionary because they managed to put cameras on very many sectors of the fence. So you, from your house, in your laptop, this is 2008, from your laptop, you can monitor, you know, they designate you, okay, I want to be part of it. So you do a donation and they give you a little area of the fence that you can watch in your laptop 24 hours. So if you see somebody jumping, you just call this group, these guys. Yeah, the next slide is good. When you see somebody jumping, you call these guys, and they were so organized that they have they jump into these vans. They were like all abandoned across the desert. They jump into this van with shotguns, and they literally was hunting Hispanics and Mexicans just on the desert. So my approach was at that time, if we put the next slide, now it looks kind of normal to damage the film or see like imperfections, but at that time I have to but I have to deal with the purist, you know, the traditional language of documentary photography. It was more like a structure, mainly black and white, you know, kind of a magnum thing. And they weren't happy with me just to do something different. Like, for example, here in this project, what I did is I embraced the chaos of me being illegally. You know, when you're illegal, your life is really chaotic. You know, you don't have plans. You don't know what you're gonna do tomorrow. If you get deported, whatever you do, you lose everything. So you live really in chaos. So I tried to embrace that chaos on my camera. All this is 5x4. You know, the cameras, you put the hood on. So the negative is really big, and normally it's kind of a pure negative. And I did the opposite. I let light coming in on the film, which I didn't know how. You know, you have that risk of you don't know how they're gonna turn up. It's like the light is helping you to develop something that can be completely white or this, like how they come. If you see the next one, yeah. This is what I mentioned about the magic realism. This was Ari. At that moment, I didn't have museums or galleries that support me. I still was a student at that moment. So you don't have access, you know, to places or it wasn't mobile phones or Facebook or anything that you can just go to a group. It was just me with the tripod and the camera. And it's normally, you know, when I go to a refugee camp or something, they want to punch you in the face. But because with this project, with the magic realism, it was so easy to engage with the people to feel that connection. Like magic realism, imagine like in the stories of Marquez or Borges is this woman, I don't know, cooking, but she has supernatural kind of powers, right? And I felt like this girl Ari has that connection because she jumps the fence twice a week to work and back to feed the 4 children there back in Mexico. And again, the light was minimal there, so I let my chaos just breaking in. You know, you can see this kind of colors, these pink colors coming in on the picture. And the next one, yeah, again, reference from my past when I started to work illegally, like the first flat that I moved in Spain, it was 1-bedroom flat, and we were 13 people, 13 guys living there. And it's on and off. Somebody leaves, somebody stay. So your house is it's not your house. It's a communal And I found this a lot in Arizona with Mexicans. You know, when they cross the border, they go for a week or two to somebody's house. They just crash in the sofa, back to Mexico, back to Arizona. Yeah, I think the next one is, yeah, that's a gas station in Arizona, in the desert. You know, also, John, somebody told me the other day, like, you know, everyone put their own inputs on the images. Somebody told me she see two robots holding hands on that picture.
Oh, that's a lovely thing to imagine. It does look like that from afar.
I mean, the project is I think is deeper than that, but it's great. You know, like everyone has their own opinion on the images. All right. So then I knew I need to move. You know, that was my first project, and I was finishing my degree, and I already have a gallery rep. Showing New York, showing London. So no, it was well received. So I knew I have to move to North Africa, you know, to cover the whole illegal immigration topic. So I went to Egypt, because Libya at that moment was the main, you know, the main transport from Libya to Italy. But Berlusconi closed the borders for a few months, and it was really deadly because the next route was in Egypt, in a really small fishing village called Rashid. So it was a double the trip. So people started to die, you know, of in the middle of, you know, with raft. All this is like in the middle of the ocean with raft. So I decided to see Alexandria and Rashid. So I went there, and again, with the same kind of concept of trying to don't just take a picture, to get my own input, you know, on the pictures. So if you see the next one is a guy. What I did here, I realized, like, you know, the news didn't cover much of it. So there were kind of numbers. You know, nobody was interested in the identity of these people. So what I did is I opened the dark slide of my film after I took the picture to the sun on you know, in Africa, and I just closed it. So I think it was really symbolic of you know, this kind of immigration becomes a number. How many they're gonna die? No faces, explanation.
Seba, if I can interject right here,
Yeah.
I'm also really quite curious. You know, earlier on you had mentioned about how, you know, if you just walked into a refugee camp pointing a camera, you know, it's a likely chance of getting punched in the face. But at the same time, you know, you have managed to really track down these different ports of departure for these individuals, and at the same time acquaint and familiarize yourself with them and let them have enough trust in you to allow you to take their photo. How did this come about? How was it a very, very long process which it took for you to gain the trust of these individuals, which I would assume would generally try to shy away from public attention?
Yeah, it was before was worse. When I started 2008, 2009 was worse because social media, it wasn't what it is today, you know? So now we can, you know, with the phone, they can record themselves doing stuff, doing the trip. So it was really secretive, and they didn't trust if I work for the police, if I work for the government. I mean, I don't have the undercover look though, but so it was really difficult just to break in with them. Normally what I do, for example, in Normandy, in the camp was really, one of the camps in Cherbourg was really hostile, and I found a way to get in with different reasons, like not photography. Normally, because I'm from Argentina, you know, Messi and Maradona helps a lot. Most of those guys, they love football, you know? So when I start to chat and show pictures about that, yeah, they love it. But I remember in Normandy, these guys, they weren't into football at all, until I heard these guys say, like, I was into wrestling, you know, the American, and I don't have a clue about that, you know? So I called my son. My son was young at that moment, and he was really into that, you know, and he just gave me some tips about John Cena and stuff like that. So I went with that, and they love it. And when you know, sometimes I go there, I don't take a picture for like a week. I just go there to hang out. I just want to be sure, like, they know I'm gonna make good use of the project, of the pictures. I'm not gonna be there like a, like an outsider, take a picture, publish it, and then just, enjoy my life without meaning.
Right.
Another thing is the camera. The camera I used, I'm gonna show you later on the
Yep.
the camera. They are fascinated about the camera. Because
I
it's
see.
not a camera, you need to just build like a ritual, and they want to know how it works. So when I get it out, the first picture is like they take a picture of me, explaining how it works. So that helps. But now, those days now, because I have support from organization, is easier. I go with the fixer and they show me, at the beginning was difficult because just me trying to explain what I do. It was quite hard.
Yeah, I understand.
Especially when you have a fixer. Sometimes we have fixers like they're great, and sometimes the fixers they're like they just want to,
make a profit.
Yeah, exactly.
Make a profit. Yeah.
They don't see the connection. They don't understand the connection.
Indeed.
Okay. Wait, and now I show you. This is drown. I'm gonna show you a process. I'm gonna show you a little video about how I drowned the negatives on the ocean, because that when I was doing this project, I found out like there wasn't an actual number of deaths in Spain, how many people died crossing from Africa to Tenerife. So I got really like mad. I got really sad. I don't know how to describe. So what I did is after being shooting for like a few months in Tenerife, I grabbed the boxes with the film and I drowned them in the ocean. So if you play the video, you will understand a bit. Yeah, that's it. So this is in Tenerife, and that moment was 2008, was the doors of Europe. So inside those boxes, those green boxes, it was all the project, all the film I've been shooting on 5.4. What I did is I took, normally they have like a plastic seal bag. I took the seal bag and just left them on the dark, left them on the box. So in a way, like the salt water, kind of helped me to develop. And it was a representation of how many they don't make the trip, how many they didn't make it, how many they die on the trip, because most of the images, they just completely blank. I couldn't use them, But for example, in this one, you can see, this is Los Abrigos, one of the little ports where they arrive, and they used to run there. You can see the emulsion up, really up. You can see this pink and fuchsia, and some of the emulsion just rip off. And then the next one, I think, is Las Americas. That's a popular beach where all these guys is from deep Africa. They used to sell watches and fake watches. They're there walking around. They sell drugs. And the next one is I think that's a palm tree. There's a lot of resistance on the project. A lot of it's like the image wants to be there. It's wiped out, but something is there like fighting to it. To be part of it. And that becomes my first little book with Here Press in UK, which is a great publishing, super interesting. The two guys that they love photography, and what they do is amazing. If somebody's there, listen, just go and check them out. Here Press, and So when we published this, it was a mix of drown, those 12 images that they survived from drown, and a bit of my family shoebox flood, pictures, which I think they relate really well with the water. If you see, I think the next one is a page of the book. Yeah.
And so definitely, a lot of the process itself was informed by like your own personal experience. You had shared with us earlier about the flooding that happened in your, I think, grandparents' house, right? Which resulted in all of those images being damaged. And so subsequently, you basically reappropriated that process in order to develop this body of images which came to constitute Drown later on. And so across your body of works, this manipulation of images, I think it's quite characteristic of your practice.
Yeah.
And you use various elements. What are some other examples beyond Drown itself?
Yeah, well, the thing is with how I started with photography, when I wanted to be a photographer in Buenos Aires, I found it magical and fascinating. When you see something like this, I was looking to do something. I was writing a lot and I was studying journalism, but it wasn't natural,
Right.
It was really forced. When I discovered, photography as an art form, I was blown away and I wanted to do it, right now. I want to study right now. So I went to these free courses, like they do the town hall, for like pensionists. So they do tango lessons, knitting, photography, So I went there and I said, man, I want to do the course. And I said, but I have a problem. I don't have a camera. And the guy said, no problem. Just bring me magazines every week. So the guy showed me composition with collage. Everyone was taking pictures and I was just doing collage.
Right.
With magazines. So I spent 6 months of the course without taking a picture because I didn't have a camera. But that collage, that kind of experience I can't let go. That's why I work on film. That's why I do this intervention. That's why I think, like you say, it's characteristic of my work. Right. I think it's because it's attached to that experience of you have to deal with what you have.
Yep.
And I don't want to let go. I want to still 5x4, the film I work, which is kind of this size. This is the film, right? It gives me a lot of freedom to work, to touch it, to do stuff with it, to scan it, and so I think, Drown and everything comes from there.
Right, and of course, the element of chaos which you had mentioned which is also, manifest in the way that these images are developed, and you talk about as being a mirroring to your life. And I had read online that actually the number of images that were taken for Drown were actually much more significant. Much more prints, and you had thrown all of the negatives into the sea. And so basically what we are seeing is also really just a part of all of the pictures that you had shot. Perhaps I was hoping you could share with us a little bit more about that. What was that total quantity looking like?
That's why I did the video.
Yeah.
To have a record of it, because I didn't know. I mean, the video looks super cool there, but I was there just panicking, with my feet on the water. No, I mean, I didn't know I thought nothing was gonna come out. I thought it was really cathartic, for me just to have released this anger and just fucked up the whole project. And thank God those, they come out. But imagine in those 2 boxes, probably I have 60 images there.
Right.
Just print 12.
And I think that also says a lot, because earlier on you were talking about the statistics, and it was completely unknown that how many of these migrants had drowned over the course of the journey. Yeah, and so similarly, in that same light, when one encounters the publication, one also does not know fully well what the entire body of work would originally have been if it was not subject to these kind of harsh saltwater conditions as well.
Yeah, well, to be honest, like when I did it, when the first time I did it, I just want to show it in London, in the Host Gallery, which was a great gallery, but they were more documentary oriented. They took me in like the new thing, the new wave of photography. So the first thing I said, okay, we're gonna publish, we're gonna show the whole Drown. All right, great. Okay, there are 12 images and 58 all blank. They were like, what? No way, But yeah, that was a good, I thought it was a cool idea to show the whole thing,
And but then that was the initial take. I think right now, it might be a slightly different world if we had 60 images, for instance, in the pool. But
I mean, but what you did in the pool, like we need to talk about this. Is fantastic.
Yes, maybe later when we have
Yeah,
an
when we
image of
finish
the
with
pool
Bangladesh,
coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, for people who's listening there, my show Drown, for these guys, they drowned actually on a swimming pool, which is sick. All right. Okay, so now Ju, are you there, Ju? Yes. So from there, I start to study different methods of how the UK border police try to stop illegals coming in, because it's a really big business, illegal immigration, especially for security companies. They work really close to the government. They make billions of pounds trying to implement different methods to, to stop them crossing. So that picture is from America. That's a scanner, which is really expensive. And they're not in the UK. They use a thing called the heartbeat detector, which is the cheapest. If you see the next slide, which is a really tiny artifact that they put outside the lorry, and with a USB cable for sound, they can see if somebody's inside. So for this project, it was for a commission for Reggio Emilia in Italia, and I have visa problems at the moment, so I couldn't cross the border. So I said, okay, let's do it here. So the curator came here, and I showed the idea, and they said, okay, great. But I say, how are you gonna do? Because the concept was, I want to show them how they are invisible, hiding on the truck. The concept of invisibility. And the guy was like, how you're gonna take a picture, invisible pictures. So what I did is I took pictures on really long exposure on the 5x4 of immigrants they were detained at some point, or they were illegally crossing. And then I tried to reach back the image with the heartbeat system. If I show you now, because the UK border police, of course, didn't let me just take a picture of them working off the artifact. But I found this on Vice. It's a really short video of Vice in I think it's Melilla, when they cross from Morocco, how they use the heartbeat. Can we show it, you? Here they show on a car, but normally they use on big lorries. They can even hear if a mouse is inside for the heartbeat. These images are really heavy, really heavy. That's how they try to cross from Morocco to Melilla in Spain. That's it. They're gonna show there the little heartbeat detector. There. So I found like the USB, they have the same software of like levels in Photoshop, but with sound, even the same colors, magenta is, yeah, you see there on the screen. So what I did is, if you see the next slide, that's how I took the pictures. It's a portrait inside there, Again, really gambling about if the picture's gonna come up or not. So what I did is I push the levels on Photoshop, like the heartbeat, and I put the image out, because the 5x4, these negatives, they carry so much information, inside. Like if you push it, you can get something out. Can we see the next one to see? Yeah, if you see closely, I don't know if the screen, if you can see, but I see people, like you can see a guy on the image. So that becomes a heartbeat detector images. They weren't, again, at that time, I don't think the Italians were ready for this kind of images. So I'm gonna show you now a little clip of my desktop of how I push the levels. If you can see you on the next one. Yeah, so on the show, we show this, all the images, and we show this video, we create a little box. So like a clinical box, so people goes inside and they can hear the noise of a heartbeat and see. You see how the image is growing? So I push it to the end to get all black. You can see the face of the guy now there. Obviously, I stopped, you know, for the prints, I stopped where I thought, okay, this is the best kind of visible way to show these guys. If you see the next one, yeah, you see that one there. And the neck looks really fucked up. It looks really like, it really strong on the face, really strong on the body. You see all these lines. I thought it was a great representation of what they have to deal, you know, when they cross the border. These guys, those minutes of being hiding to see if they're gonna get caught or not. And on the next one, you can see my camera. Yeah, that's the camera I used. That's a refugee camp. That was a clandestine refugee camp in Normandy. It got burned twice, that camp. And again, like I said, when they see, you know, the camera, some people don't care, some people want to punch you, but some of them, they're like, wow, well, how this work, you know? And when you put the hood on, everything is upside down. The guys are like, wow. So that gave me a bit of the start of the connection, the trust of these guys. So for this one, let me see, I show, yeah, I was looking in this camp and asking a lot of, well, you know, hanging out with them, mainly hanging out, having breakfast. I found these lovely ladies, independent, like every morning, you know, they went there with like thousands of croissants, you know, for the guys to have breakfast. So they asked me if I wanted to join them, you know, and that's how I started to listen to the stories about how they cross. Nearly 2-3 times a week, they try to cross from the jungle or from Sherbrooke to England, you know, on the lorries. They send them back, or they stay a few weeks on a center, and then they send them back. So one of the stories, when I heard at that moment, if you go down 1 or 2, was the carbon dioxide. Because I saw the guys carrying carrier bags, you know, like supermarket bags, every time they went for a lorry. So I said, well, what's going on, you know? And because another method of the UK border police is a sensor that measures carbon dioxide. So if you breathe from the outside the lorry, they can notice somebody's inside. So these guys, what they do is they put a bag in the face, in the head, and they breathe inside. At that time, I saw this movie of Welcome, a French movie, Philippe, I don't remember the name of the guy, Philippe something. I send you the link of the guy for the ones that are interested. Philippe Laurent, great director. So he did a movie about this topic, and he showed really graphically how it works. I have a little clip. It has no sound, you know? So yeah, this is Dover the Port. This is not a documentary, this is an actual movie. But it's really graphic about how to understand, you know, they show the real sensor there. Yeah, you see there, that guy working there, you see that stick? That's a stick, like measure the carbon dioxide, and those are the guys breathing on the bags. So from there, I thought, how I can, how can I translate breathing on an actual image, you know, without showing a video, just show like an old school image. So what I did is I took the portraits and I did a sandwich. So I put the neck. Yeah, that's it. That's one of my images. I put the neck of these portraits I took of the guys on the camp, and I applied plastic bags that I found in the border on top of it. So that gave me this really claustrophobic look. It's like people breathing, you know, how difficult it is to breathe on a bag. This, you know, when you see the picture on a show, it's you feel this claustrophobic way, like why I can't see the guy properly, you know? That was the concept of it. I think we have one more of those. You? Yeah. So the thing that was a commission for the RON Center of Photography, the museum. The thing is, one is something more educational. You have to show normal pictures too. You know, the audience is really broad, and the government pay for it. So what my deal was, okay, I do this kind of conceptual shit for my own thing, and I do a bit of more, I don't know if traditional way of showing. So I went to, I have access to this for years. The government give to the immigrants, okay, they're like refugee centers, but on the city. And I think we have a picture on the next one, which of the actual building. So imagine this center, that was a center of Senegal in Rouen. Imagine they are able to accommodate around 100, 120 people, and 400 live inside. So it's like actually going to like a really rustic prison, you know, really heavy. So I started to photograph, but it was difficult to gain access. But some of them, they got it right, and they, you know, they let me in, and they even let me into rooms where people just died the day before. And but imagine, like, if somebody died in the room, when they take it out, there are like 40 people fighting for that little tiny room. So I was in the middle of it. So I think the pictures are really soft, and they don't show enough of that emotion that I live there, you know. This one, for example, is they have one of the commune's kitchens that they have. Look how they have the fridges. They put lockers on it. That's an everyday living, you know, like thinking they're gonna, you know, eat your rice or whatever on when you're sleeping. And I think we have a portrait. No, we pass a portrait. Well, yeah, you have a portrait. Yeah, these guys, I did 3 or 4 portraits I really like, but most of them, they were really emotional, the guys. You know, they play really tough, but then when I took them on their own in the room, you know, they open themselves, and I try to communicate that emotion instead of the anger, in a way, to humanize them more, you know, to be more close to them, I think. And the next one, I think, is a communal toilet, one of the toilets. I think we saw it before, right? Well, it doesn't matter. Let's go to let's go to Talcum, yeah. So, doing these projects, I found, again, you found stories. And I found the story of all these immigrants hiding on a talcum barrel of, you know, in a truck that they transport, the actual pounder, you know, the actual talcum. And there's a CCTV camera here in England of one of them jumping. You can see it, like, it looks like a ghost escaping from the police. So the idea of the concept of this one was how the mineral, the talcum mineral, has more value than a human life. You know, the talcum mineral is allowed to cross the border, but the human don't. So I started to work with the mineral of the talcum brut, and my idea was the impediment of that value, the impediment of them crossing, it was on the pictures. So what I did is I took the portraits and I print the minerals on the glass of the actual frame. So when it was great to see the audience on the shows, because they go and they want to see the picture, they want to see the faces. But that mineral was impediment. So you see the people, like, on the actual show, just going down, going on the side. They try to look the way. And I think we reached that point of, again, identity. You know, you can't see the identity. It's hiding there. It's somebody trying to stop these guys coming, and I try to stop them seeing the picture in a way.
Right, and sorry, just to like jump in here
because
you know?
we show in Talcum here, right, in Singapore.
Yes,
I mean, yeah.
And so, yeah, so I originally had thought that they were actually digitally manipulated. images, and that collage was actually happening on Photoshop. But as I understand now, that
Well,
originally it was actually
original was on a glass.
On a piece of glass. So it was actually
glass. But then when magazines or books, they ask you, okay, send me the image, you have to send it on
right, of course,
plane.
of course.
And then I found some of the galleries, it was really difficult for them to print. Like the one in France, they tried and didn't work. We did one in London with Flowers Gallery, and it was perfect. So
right.
it wasn't an easy. It's not for I don't know how to explain it. Like if I'm not there, or the printer is not really good, really crafty with it, it doesn't work. So
right.
the alternative was just that one image.
To compress it together as a singular image.
Yeah,
right.
That's it.
And I think that also lends a slightly kind of different reading to the work. It makes that occlusion of those individuals' identity immediate, apparent, and very obvious. You know, there is really no way to discover more about those individuals who are captured in the frame, and that is also very much like how these stories appeal to the everyday person in the news or to the news outlets or on the radio. When we hear of these stories, we actually don't have this opportunity to even peel away those layers and uncover it itself.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because can we see another one, Joe? I think, yeah, that's interesting because that was quite recent. A few years ago. It wasn't from the beginning when the media didn't cover immigration. Right. Now it's everywhere. You know, we all aware. You remember that picture in it was a Turkish boy, a super young guy, died drowned, and they have that picture of him on the shore. And you see, okay, that's it. This is it. Everyone saw that. It's not going to happen again, and it's still happening. You know, so with this kind of project, when the media was aware of, I thought I'm going to be more graphic. I thought my work will be more in your face, like showing this, you know, guys angry, and it was the opposite. I found, you know, the word takes its own form. You can control a bit, but then it goes whatever it goes, and it was the opposite. It was this. It was I didn't want, you know, I want the people to experience it in this. They can see the identity of these guys.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's the reality of the situation still. That when we encounter these kinds of news, it is always illegal immigrants is just this collective concept that exists in people's heads. And
that's so
the characteristic of it is always a huge collective, well, not huge, well, a significant group of individuals, and none of the individual stories itself, the individual never ever surpasses this collective image that we have in our minds.
Yeah,
and I think that's what viewers have to confront when they look at Telkom as it is installed, that there are actually individuals. It's not just a group of people, you know. It's not
even though, like what you say is really interesting, like Maria Mata, curator from the Open Eye here in Liverpool, he wrote about my work the other day, and he wrote a piece like, what was the concept of how a human can be illegal just for being born
right
somewhere else. You know what I mean? It's we like you say, it's a collective kind of concept of what's being illegal. We're not illegals. Like the whole concept is the politics of this country make you illegal. You know, we shouldn't call illegal immigrant.
Yes, definitely.
It's really weird. It's really weird. But again, like when I was illegal, like my life was shit, but the different levels, you know. When I was working in the construction site, I thought my life was shit. But then I met these guys from Ghana, Senegal, Morocco. They were living in really low condition. I went in a plane there. I pretend I was on holidays and I got a fake visa and I went in a plane. Those guys, they went in a raft. They paid a human trafficker just a lot of money from the village to get on a maybe year trip to get there. So, you know, all these different levels of illegal immigration, when people say it's illegal, yeah, what kind of illegal status you have, you know?
Right. But okay, I'll save some of my questions for till the very end. I'll let you get through your
Okay.
your
We need
presentation
that.
first.
Wait.
Yeah,
Where
I still
are
have a
we?
few.
We are in Talcum, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
If we move to the next one, this work is kind of my latest work, and it's all related. It's all related with my lockdown project, and it's about start as my dad. You know, my dad is there again, and that work is from Shoebox. You know, remember the box we're talking about, and the water damage. And I found a few like this one that has glitter and a lot of stationery. You know, stationery elements like pens and stickers. I think probably from my sister. You know, she was really young, and I found it fascinating. You see the glitter on the print. So I thought that element, you know, at some point you're not gonna use that element. And then not long ago, my father and my mom, they have an eviction letter from Tenerife. It was this crisis on 2014, 2015 was this housing crisis in Spain, where they give you houses, they give you mortgages, and after 2-3 years, that bubble explode, nobody could pay, so they start to evict people like crazy, even really old people, you know. I don't know if you like, they never in Spain, especially, been like so much suicide of elderly people jumping off their own balcony because the police came to try to take them out. So the same happened with my parents. Like, they have an eviction letter. They were fighting for a few years. So I started this before we fixed the problem. So I start to see, oh, they're gonna take them out. You know how it's to be. I mean, nothing's gonna happen because I have their back. You know, but still, imagine being 70 years old and have to, you know, police has to remove from your house. So because they're on the distance, what you do is you start to research online what's going on. You know, Google what's going on, and I start to see a lot of graphics pops up, and I was fascinated by the graphics. You know, really different ways to show you this awful news. So I start to grab the graphics, all this graphic about the housing problem in Spain, the politics on Spain, the banks, everything. My parents, they have problems. I try to grab them, put it in a folder, and how to make sense of it for my project. So I start to photograph the apartments where the next picture, you can see the first apartment. That was Sueño del Mar, in Callao Salvaje. I start to see how we move. When I talk them, we move from different, you know, areas to rent, and I start to take picture of their actual house and start to merge the graphics, the charts with glitter. So what you see the next one is one of the graphics I use. So I grab the glitter or stationary elements from my house, especially from my daughter Lola, and try to make sense of the graphic on top of the negatives. So what you see next is one of the images again. And yeah, so that's Los Gigantes. That was the first place where I told them. And then you see how I photograph it. Yeah, so that's the amount of glitter from that specific graphic on top of the negative. And I photograph actually the negative, you know, I mean, it's a positive, it's E6. And I have a little video that I did not long ago to show you the process of how, and again, that collage story, like I was doing collage before taking pictures, it becomes again a reference. So if you will show, yeah, that's it. That's me working on the studio with the negative and the glitter. Yeah, so you can see the amount, you know, I separate, like if the chart has, I don't know, 30% of, yeah, you can see one here is suicide graphic, right? You can see shit, but yeah, I think it's a suicide graphic. So you can see how increase from that bubble of housing to the top. And my image is represented by little sticks of glitter of my daughter. So you can see the same, I use the same elements of the graphic on the image. And that brings me to the last work, the lockdown project, which I use the same system. I show you a video now, which explains it really well, like we did for the artist resident I did for the university. And let me know if you can hear it, and I just let it play.
Unless you work in a hospital,
We have sound?
we can't really appreciate what's going on. The information that we receive daily are highly politicized briefings and charts and graphics with daily rates. I'm doing my artist residence for UC Manchester University on lockdown in my house. The focus of the project is information that we receive every day about how we deal with the pandemic, the COVID-19. So I wanted to create a dialogue between these graphics and images I've been taking for the last 12 years in different countries. You can say conflict areas, dealing with illegal immigration, refugee camps, drug trafficking, images that have never seen the light. They never made the edit of specific projects, so they were hanging out there in my archive. Every negative for each country is represented by a chart or graphic of that specific country. Most of my images are dealing with isolation anyway, for all over the years. I knew because of the lockdown I have to create my interventions with elements found on the house. I worked with gels many years ago, and I realized they were really easy to manipulate and really effective visually. So all the charts and graphics are represented with these photo filter samples. It's funny that the last place I visited before the lockdown was China, and I couldn't take any pictures. When I went for the interview at the embassy to get my visa, I showed them the invitation of the museum for me to get there to my exhibition. And they officially Googled to see my work in front of me, and they weren't really happy. So they made me sign a declaration that I won't be there taking any pictures. And it's really difficult when you work on large format to don't be noticed in a place like China. My show opening was the first week of December, right at the beginning of the pandemic. I'm really used to work with limitations. Working in the house with no scanner, for example, it forced me to photograph the light box with the neck and gels on top. And that gives a really unique source of light to the images.
We back? Can you hear me? Good. All right. So yeah, this is the lockdown project, and I think because of the times we live now with the pandemic, when I did it was at the beginning of the pandemic. You know, we all thought we were gonna die. I thought that's gonna be my last work. So. It still makes sense, but it was a bit more, I think, dramatic at the beginning. But again, I have to deal with the resources I have in my own studio. I couldn't just go and create anything. I couldn't go out. So all these years of working with isolation, all the archival I have, I just try to just deal with it. And again, like you say, my characteristic interventions, how we call it, on photography, I deal with what I have, which is these filters. And you can see, let me see the next, yeah, that's in Egypt. So all my traveling, working on illegal immigration, on drug trafficking, it was plans with every single chart that I found from every specific country. Just put it on the picture. If we see one more, you can, one more, that's Mexico, one more, yeah, there. You can see how I try to match the colors of the graphic in this kind of collage thing. The thing is, the collage that I do normally is on negative, on film, it's not on actual paper. So I think that's the weird bit, because I have to photograph the light room, the light box, I mean. So the light who comes is really special. It's not, normally lights come from everywhere, not from down the neck. So that gives a really special, unique light, I think. Let me see the next one, Drew. Yeah, so that's really crazy, because normally this is Christopher Gee, the gallery who represent me in Europe. He's based in Zurich. Amazing. Go and check the artists, they're just fucking great. But normally it's a gallery, just they have 2 years in advance book, right? The program is 1.5 years, 2 years. That's how crazy is this pandemic. Like, people wanted or wants to show and talk about it so much. So the gallery just called me straight away when they saw the residents, say, man, we're gonna show it straight, like in 20 days, and say, how? So they built it in the showroom. We built a show just for the lockdown project. If you see, I think the next picture is one of the, yeah, how, like you do, guys, like you did with your festival. You just put balls on it and make it happen. It's so difficult, right? To show. For this job, I think we have one more of the show. For this show, like, imagine you have to book in advance. You have just 1 hour, 2 people. It changed completely, like, the dynamic of how to perceive work on a gallery or on a museum. That's how fast this COVID takes us to on the art. I don't know. I found it weird, fascinating though, but weird. Again, like the next one, I think is, is featured in Phone Magazine. Again, Phone Magazine is one of my opinion, is my favorite magazine of photography. Normally, they're super conceptual, and they found the right match for the magazine. They build this in like less than a month or 2 months, just about in limbo, it calls the issue, about what art is doing during COVID, Again, super interesting. And I think the last slide I'm gonna show you, thank God, guys, is an amazing, amazing swimming pool in Singapore with my work drowning there, And this is all, they can see you, John, there on the screen. This is all you.
Not just yet. Yeah, not all just me. I think a lot of due credit has been given to everybody who is part of the team. In fact, the initial idea of Drowning Drowned actually came from Gwen Lee, who is the festival director.
When Gwen called me, because I met Gwen in China.
Yeah.
And we talked about showing work. At that moment, COVID wasn't in the radar, so I supposed to be there now. With you guys, having a pint there, having fun. But so when she called me about, look, we have this building, this old school with a swimming pool on it, and instantly I was like, fuck yeah. And she got the idea straight away. She was like, and I said yes to whatever you're gonna say. Yeah. No, I think it's fantastic, man. You did a great.
Well, of course, Gwen was super open to exploring other ways of installing. And when she initially shared with me this idea, I looked at her, what other ways do you want? I don't think we can find a method that can essentially trump this to drown the drowned images a second time. And I think that, for me to do some sharing here on my part and my own take on this particular presentation, I think it really, in many ways, reaffirms how this circumstance is still persisting into the current times. On a number of the tours that I did for members of the public who had signed up for the curator tours of the festival, I had shared that one of the primary concerns that the festival had in this coronavirus pandemic, and in relation to the issues that you have addressed over this entire talk, is how news of the pandemic would now seriously overshadow news about any other human rights related matters. With everybody completely focused on the pandemic, we constantly fed information about it, but that does not mean that there are not any individuals who are still undertaking these dangerous journeys, who are still trying to make that run to safety. And slowly, all of those stories and narratives are being submerged again, because all that occupies us today and occupies our mind is what's going to happen if I go outside? Am I going to contract the virus? And so less time is spent thinking about these other very, very important issues, which are still continuing to affect the world. And the other thing which I thought was interesting and novel is that over the past weeks since the opening of the exhibition, since this image that you're sharing here was taken, is that the pool has gradually increased in depth as well.
I'm interested to know about this. The pictures they move around.
Also, I'll get to this talking pictures thing in quite a bit, and I thought that all of these also added new layers of reading. So initially, when this photo was taken, and some members who are with us tonight might recall some of the Instagram footage that was first shown, which involved me placing those images in the pool, and the images would shift around. Then the water was low, high clarity. You can see the images very, very, very clearly at the bottom of the pool. But since then, the water levels has risen, and to me, it's very much symbolic of how, with more and more news that we just get about the pandemic, those narratives are getting drowned in deeper and deeper waters. They become images that are even harder to recover than they originally were. And at the same time, initially, when those images were first put into the pool, they would start to drift around and shift around a bit, a sense of life. Those images had a sense of life and animation as they moved around. But as soon as they found their fixed position, it seemed like they didn't want to move anymore. In a way that their status as being drowned images, drowned stories that would not be heard anymore, in some ways became absolutely cemented at the bottom of the pool water. And putting the...
Can I ask you, I'm really intrigued. Yes. I would love to be there. It's such a great idea, guys. How the audience, where is the limit where they can see it? They see it from up.
Yes. So
from near the pool.
So audiences can walk around the perimeter of the pool itself and observe the images. We definitely do not encourage anybody to enter that pool. And it is quite beautiful because from different vantage points, from the second floor of the Block 3 building there, from Lilia Luganskaya's installation, one can look out of the window and see the drowned images as well, resting at the bottom of the pool.
Amazing.
Yeah. And in fact, actually putting talcum together with, putting talcum on that wall was also quite intentional. As you explained earlier in your talk, with the images of the minerals being collaged, superimposed in a way over the portraits of the individuals. I thought that it was just as apt to mount, to hang the prints on a mineral surface. So that was a slate wall that was that the images are on. And so in many ways, these individuals are in a way sandwiched by the minerals and the raw products, which drive the chain of
it's great. Like,
demand and supply.
For example, I never seen my prints on canvas. You have to print on canvas those to get like waterproof or the rain or whatever.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Oh, yes.
For purposes of water resistance. And in many ways, I think that jumping onto this particular mode of presentation was also a straightaway yes thing for me, because very often when I think people can think of a photo installation, they think of a gallery, they think of a white cube space, pictures are hung on walls. Very rarely the photographs become alive in the form of an installation, which is the case here. And out in the public, braving the elements, I thought that was also reflective of the conditions that these individuals have been going through their entire lives in an attempt to find that move, in making that move to safety as well. So, in a way, it was quite literally putting these stories out there, where all can see them.
Amazing. I wish I was there to see it, man.
Yeah, I wish you could be here too. I think we had an awesome time. But I think with that, I think we should also pretty much conclude the presentation section. But we are also, maybe we are a bit over time, but let's spend a few minutes for question and answer. If anybody who is watching has some questions for Seba, please kindly put that into the comment fields, and I will relay those questions to Seba. But to start off that question and answer, I had a few questions that, for my own curiosity, that just kind of fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Seba, how long did you spend with that illegal status? The inhumane status, as far as I'm concerned.
I've been 6 years illegal, 1 year in mainland Spain, 1.5 years in mainland, and the other 4.5 in an island in Tenerife, which is pain in the ass because you can't leave the island, and the big island because even smaller. So it was really difficult because they know at some point they knew if you're legal or not,
Right.
So hiding was a pain. But then I got married with an Italian girl, a friend of mine, just to get my visa, because I got deported from Spain, so I came back to Argentina with her. We got married, 20 days back. We signed the paper, and that was the first time I have residence in Spain. And it obviously changed a lot, but it wasn't that sweet as I thought it's gonna be. Like, wow, I'm legal, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All those years, they didn't go away like that. And I think working on immigration, on my photography was a way to get hold of to don't forget, where I come from, to don't forget those guys. I so many stories with different guys that they came in and out from my life of on those years, and I feel working on my art, working with my art close to these topics still. Yes. I have a good life here, in England now. I have children. I have even a skate ramp in my house, and I'm fucking great. But I don't want to forget. I don't want, that give me like a reality check every time, because it's easy when you change your life a bit. It's easy to just adapt yourself to the new thing.
Right.
But my art just keep me rooted, to those guys.
Yes. And you had mentioned that, compared to a lot of others whose journeys were of excruciating difficulty, yours was relatively easier in the sense that you bought a plane ticket and you departed. But with a lot of these other individuals, when they make that run, do they have an end destination in mind? Is there a place that they know that they want to get to, or are they just looking for the easiest way out?
That's a great question, because what I saw, especially in France, is they imagine that when I covered that project for 2 years in Normandy, it was they escaped from Afghanistan, right? Yeah. Most of them, Iraq and Afghanistan. Most Afghanistan on the refugee centers in the north of France, and it took nearly like between 9 months and a year to get there. It wasn't like we're gonna live. They came on foot with no money. There was a crazy journey, but they want to come to England. That was, the final destination was England. Say, man, you're here. They're taking care of you now. You can start your life here. No, England.
Yep.
And some Germany, you know, they have their own goals, maybe because they have friends, they have family. So it's like the journey never ends. Like even when they're here, maybe they have problems here and they know, like when I was in mainland Spain, I was struggling and my friend said, look, something happened in Canary Island.
Right.
Maybe I have a job there for you.
Yeah.
That's how you move. So these guys, maybe they come to England after 2 years being like in limbo, and then they come here, and after a few months they found out in Birmingham they deport them.
Yeah.
And okay, so now it's Germany or now it's Italy. So it's a difficult. It's when you, not just illegally, when you are an immigrant, you're an immigrant forever. You know.
Yeah.
If I go back to Argentina now, which I love the culture of Argentina. This is my fucking home, right? It's not my home anymore. And this one is not my home. Like I literally live here for 15 years, but I know people doesn't perceive me as part of this country. So you detach forever. It sounds sad, but it's kind of, you deal with it, you know. But when you migrate forever.
Yeah. In a way, at the start of the festival, I said, you know, in departing and arriving, it happens almost all exactly at the same time, almost as if in limbo. And I think that sense of being trapped between two worlds, neither of them being completely your home anymore, kind of perfectly encapsulates that idea as well. But maybe another two more questions from me, and then maybe we will conclude tonight's session. You work predominantly in analog, you know, a lot of analog photography. But over the course of your talk, you know, you had mentioned that different modes in which you manipulate the images through the collage method, as well as through the use of glitter, to the use of exposure to sunlight and various other harsh environments, which generally negatives would be kept away from. But you also mentioned that, you know, you have used Photoshop as well, you know, for the purposes of manipulation and to bring out certain qualities of an image and to respond to certain data that you were looking at. So how do you decide with each image how to make that intervention? When do you choose to use glitter, or when do you choose to use salt water? In the case of drown, it seems pretty clear, but in other instances, however, how do you select that mode?
Like I said, like I love the analog feeling, mainly because I can play with it physically. But like you say, I mean, for just the fact, like whatever I do, I need to scan it. I need to put on Photoshop just to scan it. But like the heartbeat, for example, without Photoshop couldn't exist, like in that way. So every project I do, I start with an idea, and then the project just transport themselves to whatever it is. I'm not precious about, I shouldn't do this because it's not analog, I shouldn't do. I'm not precious about that. I'm the only thing that interests me on a project, if the project can communicate well, as I thought, to the audience. And I mean, they're complicated, my projects, to watch in a gallery, right? They're not straightforward. But I think that's the point of when I go to a show myself to see other artists, I love that game of, I need to find out what's going on. This is really interesting. What the hell is going on? Yeah. Because if I show you everything on one picture, you move to the next one, and it's not in your memory anymore. I love when people just talk about it. Well, you know, it's a way for me, like, for example, my work on illegal immigration. It's a way for me if two friends or a couple go to a gallery and then they talk about it. They talk about it because they found out something. Hey, it's human to talk about these people. No, they don't see people dying and they have in the memory and just, okay, let's not talk about this shit. No. Yeah. Let's talk about these guys. They come with a carrier bag. They have to breathe there, you know. I want to create that dialogue.
Right.
with the
And I think
audience.
that's absolutely critical now in this day and age.
Of course,
You know,
of course.
especially in terms of interactions with the artwork.
Of
Okay,
course,
and
now it's crazy, like how it changed the perception of images and photography and video with social media. Now, I think it's great. I think it's great.
yes,
Like we're so open to everything now.
right,
I mean, it can do damage in another sector, but for us, it's like we never been so free to see stuff. You can see
Right.
whatever. Before you have to just categories of what, or your documentary, or your fashion, or your editorial. Now you can do whatever you fucking want, and it's
yes,
allowed. With
right.
how it
And
should be, right?
right, and I think that power of agency is also so important. You know that because you have so many manipulated images. Images that intervene with. It is also telling people, viewers, that when you look at images, you really need to think bigger about it. How does it represent other issues as well, and that you shouldn't take the photo for what it is. That
Yeah,
there are ways in which you can tease out stronger narratives and stronger stories within the image as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think you have the problem is with money, right? Always about money. Like I see so many good talent and artists, like they have to compromise their work,
Yeah.
because they want to make a living, right? And they kill that spirit, that freedom. For that reason, I always, when I talk to students, I say to them, try to be independent with your photography. Do you know how to use a camera? You've been studying this. Use your camera to use whatever, Go to a gig, make money. Go to a wedding, make money. Take a picture of a building, make money. Then you can be totally free on your art. You can do whatever you want. When you start to compromise your art because, I'm gonna fit, that picture's gonna fit there, or that picture's gonna, that's when your spirits start just go down, on photography.
Thank you so much for your bravery and honest sharing tonight, Seba. I think all of us have gained so much from it. So I think with that, tonight's artist presentation has come to a close. I thank everybody for joining us for tonight's session with Seba Kurtis. But finally, can I invite all of the participants tonight to scan and fill in the feedback about the talk? We would appreciate that so much, and we will use that to produce even better content for everybody. And so with that, thank you very much, Seba. And to our audiences, wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
Hey,
thank you so much.
Bye, mate.